Now we have a working definition of addiction. Addiction is a stress-induced defect acting on a genetic vulnerability in the reward learning areas of the midbrain and the emotion choice areas of the frontal cortex. And the symptoms of addiction are loss of control, craving, and persistent drug use despite negative consequences. We have organ, we have defect, we have symptoms. We have met the burden of proof.
What is the alcoholic? My definition of alcoholic is one whose drinking is causing problems. All alcoholics, as a base for their disease, drink too much. Wasn't that brilliant? Excessive drinking. But ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of non-alcoholics who abuse alcohol and drink excessively. The difference is that the alcoholic usually does. He has an excessive drinking pattern. Now please, what is excessive? How much is too much? That amount is excessive, which causes trouble. That's too much. Now, like what trouble? The following list of things are the results of excessive drinking and are therefore the symptoms of alcoholism. Number one, the blackout. By definition, a blackout is present inability to recall something done recently under the influence. You can remember graduating from grammar school and can't remember driving the car home last night. That's a blackout. A normal drinker would be frightened to death of such a thing. Alcoholics do this all the time. Number two, gulping and sneaking drinks. Hey, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a thumbnail little old question to diagnose alcoholism, one question: do normal drinkers do this? If your answer is no, you're talking about abnormalcy. If any of you men were to go home tonight and see your wife sneak out of the dining room, go into the bathroom, open the toilet tank, pull out a bottle of milk and drink 3 shots, you'd have her committed in 2 minutes. Normal people don't do that. And yet we watch alcoholics drink that way and we think it's kind of ordinary. Have you ever embarrassed someone sneaking a drink? You walk in the kitchen, he's got a great big hooker, it's going, "Hi, Henry." "Hi, how are you?" He doesn't know what to do with it. It weighs a ton. Ladies and gentlemen, normal people don't get embarrassed taking a drink. Loss of control. This is the biggie. It indicates compulsion. It indicates compulsion. Have you ever drunk more than you determined you were going to drink? That's loss of control. And if your answer is yes, more than once, you'd better look at your drinking. Now, however, when somebody asks us about that, the old alcoholic has an alibi system to choke a horse. You know what an alibi is? It's an unreasonable reason for doing something. What'd you get drunk last Thursday for? It rained. How about Saturday? It didn't. How about last Sunday? The Colts won. How about the week before? They lost. It's the dog's birthday. Every alcoholic has a 900-year-old dog. He has a birthday every 3 weeks. The eye-opener. The eye-opener is the need of a drink after a period of deprivation, which is usually after sleep, so the eye-opener usually occurs in the morning. But did you notice I didn't call it the morning drink? The alcoholic, in order to alibi his way out of things, will stay away from a drink until noon. He'll shake to pieces. So he can say, "Well, I didn't drink till noon." He also didn't get up till noon, but he doesn't look at that. Drinking alone. The alcoholic drinks alone to hide the frequency and the amount. I don't want you to know I drink as much as I do, as often as I do, so I drink where you can't see me. The office drinker who goes into the lavatory to drink. All you have to do is ask your question: do normal drinkers drink in the toilet? Usually not. Change the pattern. I've got to do something about my drinking, so he switches. He changes the pattern. He switches from bourbon to rye. from rye to vodka, from vodka to beer. It is always from one alcoholic beverage to another. And then this one that has killed people. Why don't you just drink beer? Beer never hurt anybody. Ladies and gentlemen, the addiction is to alcohol, not the clothing it wears. You know the difference between a beer alcoholic and a whiskey alcoholic? The amount of alcohol you find in a 12-ounce bottle of beer is exactly what you find in a 1-ounce shot of whiskey. The difference is obvious. You got to drink more beer to get it. You got to go to the bathroom more often and it ain't worth it. It's all about a fellow ordered a bottle of beer in a bar and went to the bathroom, dumped it down to John. Somebody asked him what was wrong, if he had lost his mind. He said, no, he's just tired of being the middleman. Antisocial behavior. Just listen to this line, see if you've ever heard it, see if you've ever used it. He's a wonderful fellow. When he's sober. Antisocial behavior is characteristic of the alcoholic. Okay? Antisocial behavior has results. Loss of friends, jobs, and families. An alcoholic is one whose drinking causes problems. And the family usually suffers. The friends disappear from the whole family because to take the family, you got to take him. And when he comes, there's always a fight, so don't invite them. Jobs. I do my job better drinking than any 5 men sober. And the only thing you can say to a man like that is, keep drinking. And families. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said this 1,000 times too. The effect on families is unbelievable. School begins very shortly. And every noon, bells will ring in schools just like this one, and the kids will go down to the cafeteria to eat lunch. And at any given table, there's one kid with his face down in the soup saying nothing while they're all talking about what happened last night. Some game, some show, whatever. He's saying nothing. Guess what happened in his home last night? He lay in bed shaking, listening to his father calling his mother a goddamn whore in the middle of a drunken rage, and he's been raised on this. Now who's he share this with? Not a soul. He just keeps it in and gets sicker. And that kid, if he ever touches alcohol, is practically a sitting duck for alcoholism himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just mention that because it demands hours of talking for itself. Now please, doctors and hospitals. The alcohol is beginning to butcher the body now. And so it's in and out of hospitals. And he still is blind. He can't see what his 3-year-old can see. It's nerves. It's the stomach. It's anything but the drinking. You know how we've treated alcoholics? The professional goes after what he thinks are the causes of alcoholism, and they're not. They're the cause of his drinking. Inferiority complex, fear of authority, death in the family, shyness, whatever. The social worker goes after the effects. You know, feed the family, clothe the family, get him another job. Meanwhile, he's drinking himself to death. 2 men 40 years ago finally came along and said, let's stop the drinking. Now he's scared. The doctor says, you have cirrhosis, drink again and you'll die. So he stays sober for 14 years. And then he drinks again. Now, friends, we're going to discuss this little old thing right here, progression. Alcoholism progresses whether you drink or not. And after 14 years of sobriety, the alcoholic picks up a drink, and a week later he finds himself on a binge and a bender, and he wonders what hit him. No one can explain that. It is a simple truth. The only answer to alcoholism is total, complete abstinence. And that's why all these programs of research trying to make alcoholics drink again is going to kill them. I'm a man. I can handle a beer. I have 14 years of sobriety, so he does. He handles a beer. And the next day he handles a beer. And the next day he handles a beer. But 3 days later he handles 4 beers. And 2 days later he's handling 6 shots. And a week later 4 quarts handles him. At the punch bowl's brink, let the thirsty think what they say in Japan. First the man takes a drink, then the drink takes a drink, then the drink takes the man. When an alcoholic drinks again after a prolonged stretch of sobriety, he does not pick up where he left off. In a relatively short time, he picks up where he would have been if he had been drinking all that time. Why? God knows, and he won't tell. Tremors is an infallible sign of physical addiction. This is the inner tremors, where every fiber of your being screams for a drink. Ladies and gentlemen, the alcoholic doesn't get euphoria. He gets 10 seconds of euphoria and then 3 weeks of trying to stay alive. He works to drink, and drinking is work. That's why alcoholics lie to you. Alcohol is more important than breath. If they were to tell the truth, you'd tell them to quit, and they know they can't quit. They need alcohol to live. And so, Doc Green used to say, this indicates a positive cellular craving for the drug without which he cannot now operate normally. So it's protect the supply. Keep the bartender paid. Hide the bottle. If you know somebody hides bottles, you know an alcoholic. And you see how far down the line it is, don't you? 14, unreasonable resentments. Unreasonable resentments. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were to walk down the street and somebody punched you in the nose and you didn't resent it, you'd be numb between the ears. But an alcoholic will walk downstairs, mumble good morning, his wife doesn't hear him, so she doesn't respond. 3 weeks later, he hits her in the head with a shotgun handle. That's unreasonable. Alcoholics live that way. And when you live with them, you can't cope with this. Unreasonable resentments. The wife says, if I say yes, I'm wrong. If I say no, I'm wrong. I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. Nameless fears and anxieties. This disease teaches its victims one single thing. It's the only thing alcoholics learn from their illness. That's how to be scared to death. Ladies and gentlemen, they're afraid to live and they're afraid to die. They're just afraid. Till you come to the end of the line, the collapse of the alibi system. You know what that means? It means that if he's lucky, the alcoholic reaches his moment of truth. He looks into the mirror of himself and sees what is there instead of what he wants to be there. He sees what everybody else has been looking at. He says, I did not get drunk last night because it rained or because it didn't rain. I don't know what the weather was. It's not her big mouth. She's gone. The Colts neither won nor lost. They didn't play. The dog is dead. I did not intend to drink, and I got drunk. I have a drinking problem. Now he can respond to help. You see, if the poor alcoholic surrenders to his addiction, he winds up incarcerated, insane, or dead, or he can surrender to help. The only help that I know of that really works, and it works best for most, is a phenomenon called AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. It contains 12 steps of therapy out of the pit. But ladies and gentlemen, I believe God gave us the science of medicine for sick bodies, psychiatry for sick minds, psychology for jumbled emotions. I believe we have dentists for bad teeth, and I believe He gave us AA for alcoholism. It's what works best for most. Now, please, I have said most of what I intend to say tonight. But it would be grossly incomplete and unjust of me to leave without asking one single question to dispel forevermore a crazy myth that we have labored under and that has resulted in hundreds of thousands of alcoholic deaths. Is it true that you cannot help an alcoholic unless he wants help? That's a lie. It's a myth. It's completely unjust. Don't hand me this, you can lead horses to water and not make them drink. I know that. But you can lead them to a well and make them thirsty. And that's what we do when we coerce an alcoholic into treatment. We offer him something to respond to. And if the treatment is good, he will probably respond. Ladies and gentlemen, I over E plus alcohol equals the insanity of the alcoholic. Do you know what the insanity of the alcoholic is? He consumes a chemical that is killing him. Now watch this real simple formula. E over I, the insanity of alcoholism, plus AA is a restoration to sanity. He now functions normally again. He doesn't drink. My friends, I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening to me. And the prayer that I leave on is this. If any of you has a drinking problem, I hope to God I just spoiled your drinking for you. Good night.